Hi everyone, my name is Phyllis and I'm the owner of Moody Quilting Fabrics. Now, I have done a series of paper piecing houses and trees, and I am coming to you today to show you tall building or tall house number 4 that I've designed. But before that, I'm going to show you a few of the other ones that I have done. So let's switch to the overhead camera, and you can see me up there, right there, in your in the corner, so you can see me. All right, so these are the small trees, and I've designed for. They're already up on the website as a free download. And this is the first tall tree. And I've designed other tall trees, but I will be slowly launching them when I have time. So now these trees are 3.5 by 4.5. So they're 3.5 this way and 4.5 this way. Now, if you look at this, if you sew this tree to that tree, it will be the same height as this tree, okay? So these tall ones, these tall trees, this one here, and I'll show you the houses in a minute. This one is, it's supposed to be 8.5, but it's kind of tight. So it is if it's ironed properly, and this one's not technically ironed properly. So it would be 8.5 by 3.5. Okay. And it's not ironed properly. That's why it's not, it's been stored away and it's not properly ironed. And I bet I have just, yeah, I have almost gained my 1/2 inch. It still needs a little bit more pull, but I've got my 8.5 and I've got my 3.5 this way. All right. So they would fit together. Now, these are the 5 little houses that I designed. Getting more elaborated. This is the first one I think I designed. Then I did this one. No, this was the first one. Then I did this one. Then I took this one and put a chimney on it. And then I got a little bit more elaborate with these. So these are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, and these 4 trees, small trees, and this one tall tree is already on the website. I also designed 4 tall buildings or houses. Okay, so there you go. There's another 4. And these are already on the website ready for downloads, okay? So I think these are adorable. You can use your stash to build these up. 2 of these houses, 2 of these sewn together, it will be the same length as these. So you can really have a lot of fun making these. You can have a lot of fun making them. Okay, that gives you an idea. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how the fourth tall house. All right, so let me just get this out of the way and we're going to get going. All right, so I just grabbed some scraps and I chose these, and I'm going to show you the print out. When you print these out, make sure that the square is measuring an exact 1 inch, so the houses will all fit together. Make sure every one that you print out will have 1 inch. This is just printed directly off the program, so I don't have the square. But when we upload this, it will have a square. All of them have a little 1 inch square to measure when you print out. Just make sure that you use the right I don't know what the term is, but choose the right dimensions for your printer to get that to be 1 inch. Okay, so do not just assume it's going to come out. Your printer is calibrated or set. The settings are different than my printer and so forth and so on. So just double check. So we have A, B, C, D, and E. So this A would be down. This is the top of A. So it would be here, and then B, and that's how they will go together. So let's, you would print that out onto freezer paper. This has got a shiny side. I think you can kind of see the shiny side yeah, there, you can kind of see that it's shiny. So that would be printed out onto freezer paper. Then you would just cut apart your pieces. I think this one is A. Yes, this one's A. So you would just cut apart. And what I do is I overcut. I don't care if I have waste. I have so much scraps that if I use too much, then that's what it is. The next thing you need to do is you need to physically prep these and take the time to get these folded. And I use something with a sharp edge so I can fold over. This is Dritz Easy Hem. I think they're still available at Fabricville. I'm not 100% sure. That's where I got mine years and years and years and years ago, because I used to use these to get my hems. I'd pop this in. I would do a hem on curtains, and then I would pop this in and hit it with another iron just to crisp. Once I've done the full fold, if I need it to get this crisp, I would just pop that in and then move it along and just hit it with a steam iron. That's what they're made for. They're made for hemming skirts and other things, so you can mark. So you just make sure that everything is done, and then what you are going to do is you're going to iron the number 1, A1, which is in the middle, and you're just going to iron this piece, making sure that you have fabric going past this line, because that is your cutting line. You don't want, so you really want to make sure that you have fabric that's going past that line. And make sure that you have a 1/4 inch past this way, because you're going to trim. So I think, yeah. So I'm just going to hit it with an iron, and I'm just ironing that down. Now what I'm going to do is I need to put A2 on. So I'm going to fold this back, and I've made sure this gets folded back. So this way doesn't matter. So I'm going to just take this. You need add a 1/4 inch ruler to do this. There's a little ledge here. You're going to slide it against the paper, the folded paper, and then you're going to cut a 1/4 inch for your seam allowance. Then you're going to pick this up, turn it this way, take the next piece, and I am missing a piece. I am missing a piece. I thought I had it. Anyways, I will, maybe it got in here. Is it on me? So I am missing a piece for the bar across, but I'll cut another one. It's not the end of the world. It might have gotten somewhere else. It might have fallen down there. So anyways, so right sides together, and you need And you're going to sew, you're not going to sew through the paper. You're going to sew along the, beside the paper. The paper stays folded back, and you're not going to sew on the paper or through the paper to do this. It really saves. And this way you can use this piece more than once. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this foot out. I don't want the 1/4 inch foot. I want this one that has a little arrow in it. Let me just move it up. See how it has, see how it has a little arrow? So that's the one I want. I want something with an arrow so I can guide my, there we go. And now I have something to visually guide myself along beside the paper. I don't want to sew through the paper. And then you just sew. That's how easy it is. And oh, the paper's shifted on me because it's come undone. And I'm going to re-establish that. I want it ironed down. So I'm going to trim. I'm going to turn this. And I have a funny feeling it's shifted on me. Not by much. If it's a little off, it's a wonky house. No house is square in real life. So I'm going to get this so it's ironed back. And then I will go and do number 3. I'm just going to trim off the excess threads. Now we're going to pull back. And we're going to take the 1/4 inch, add a 1/4 inch, and it has a lip here. Oh, sorry, I did it again. Okay, so I've just cut. It has a lip here. I don't know if you can hear that. And it will slide and hold itself, and then you just cut. All right, so now we're going to take the other piece, and we're going to line it up. And we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew this into place. There we go. And I'm making sure that I'm pulling the paper and the fabric together just in case the paper didn't hold, because the freezer paper needs to hold. You print on the dull side, and you you work on the shiny side. You print the pattern on the dull side through the printer, through your inkjet printer. All right, so now we just have to do this side, and I do not know what happened to the little piece. I'm not seeing it anywhere. So let me just switch it out. So I've ironed it. That's what it looks like. And I've ironed it. Now I need to put this piece on, and I'm going to trim this off. Now, because I can't find the piece that I need, I had it cut. So I bet it's down on the other side of the ironing board. So I'm just going to, actually, I'm going to go in here and grab this piece. And it's probably more than I need. There we go. And I'm just going to put right sides together, and then we're going to sew down this side. And again, I'm just making sure that little red arrow is right beside, and I'm just following. And it really helps to have something to follow yourself with along the edge of the paper. All right. So now this one, this piece A, which is the front door of the building, of the house. Now I'm just going to give this a good ironing. And I'm going to iron it on this side. And now I am going to get another ruler out. And I'm going to add from this line out. I'm not going to assume this small dotted line is exactly my 1/4 inch. I'm going to assume it isn't. So I'm going to take my ruler and line up a 1/4 inch line on the ruler against this solid line. And then I'm going to cut. There we go. I'm going to cut this down and get it ready for sewing together all the little units. So this is unit A, and it's the first unit at the bottom of the tall building or tall house. And it's the door, the front door. So there it is. It is all, oh, I forgot to, sorry. So there it is. I will show you some more. We're going to go ahead and do B. So this is B. This is what B looks like. And I have my 3 building fabrics, the top bar. I have my B1 and I have my B4. So we're going to go ahead and get B4 on. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure that first square is covering all the space that I need it to cover. And I oversize these. I really do. I probably cut more than I need, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. So then we're going to go ahead and do B2, this one. So because we prepped it all, it's easy to fold it. And then we're going to go ahead and cut this. And we're going to get one of these and we're going to sew it to this. I'm making sure that there's plenty of fabric to cover that whole space that we need it to cover. And then we're going to go over to the sewing machine. And again, we're going to use this foot with an arrow. If you don't have a foot with an arrow, you could probably have something that you could use in your repertoire of feet with your sewing machine to make this a little easier than just eyeballing it with a regular sewing machine. Oops-a-daisy, it's come off. So I got to re-iron it back on. So I'm just going to line that up. So this has come off. So I'm going to take the time to re-iron it back on. Sometimes it doesn't, the first one doesn't always get ironed on. Just make sure you line up the stitching line to the edge of the paper. Now I can turn around and pull this back and iron that. Now I usually use a small iron for this, but I'm working in this area. So now we're doing B3 and we're going to pull it back, and it pulls back really good because we took the time to prep the paper and fold it. Then we're going to cut that off and we're going to pick up this one, the next one, making sure it's covering all the space that we need when we flip this, the fabric back onto the paper. We need to make sure that it covers the space that you want covered. So now we're going to switch back to the camera for this sewing machine. And we are going to get this sewn. Now, I've done a couple of videos in the past about, oh, never mind, about this paper piecing technique. And so you can check those out. This one, I'm doing it again because it's a whole new building that I am starting to get ready for launching onto the website. These are all, like I said earlier, they're all free downloads. There we go. Now I'm doing B4, which is this one. So we're just going to pull this back and we're going to take the 1/4 inch ruler, slide it and lock it into the paper edge that you fold it back, trim, and now we're ready for the next piece. There we go. And I'm just going to trim off the excess. And here we are. So now we're ready to iron this piece down. Now, if you want to use these papers more than once, which is totally doable, then what you want, and it's not gluing anymore, just use a fabric glue. Just a little dab will do the trick. And because you just don't want what you're piecing together to shift, or your seam allowances or your seams won't be in the right place, and you have wonky you'll have wonky windows and buildings, parts of the building will be wonky. There we go. And we're almost finished this one. And we're going to just roll this back. And the last one, so now we have everything put together here. I'm just going to get rid of some, like I don't really need to, but it just makes it cleaner. So when I'm working, now we need to put on B6. And to do that, we have this piece. I'm just going to give this a quick iron to flatten it out. There we go. And we are going to pull this back. We're going to add a 1/4 inch ruler, lock it in against the fold of the paper so it doesn't move, and trim off the excess so we end up with a perfect 1/4 inch. Now we're just going to line that up, and we're going to swing over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew this last piece, and then we'll trim it up. Now I'm going to continue working on this slowly. You can watch or not, or you can just speed up. Go ahead and to the bottom, because I did not take the time to get one made ahead of time. This is the first one I'm doing of this particular building or house. So, but I don't want to lose any more pieces. All right, so that is done. Now we can square it up. And again, we are going to take the 1/4 inch line and place it against this, because you can use these papers, if you're careful, you can reuse these papers like a few extra times. I do maybe 2 or 3 times. My girlfriend, She'll just get out her little glue stick, fabric glue stick, and just glue as she goes. And the fabric glue sticks from Sewline and stuff, they don't stay stuck for long, just long enough for her to make the unit and have it not shift on her. And that's what she does. She's determined to use her papers almost like one set or two sets for her whole quilt practically. Not in this case. These are just too small and we need to make too many. So there, that one's locked in, and this will sew to that. Oh, I forgot to cut this side off. Ooh, could have made a mistake there. There we go. I forgot one side off of this. So those two will sew together. So let's move on to Unit C. I'm just going to get this out of the way. And again, it's very similar to Unit B, except the square will be on this side. Okay, the square, see how the square will be opposite? All right, so let's get moving. So we're going to grab this square and we are going to place it there. We go. There. Hopefully this time it will stay. Okay, so we're going to go to C2 and we're going to just continue doing the cutting and the placing. Okay, perfect. And we're going to go over to the sewing machine. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me, you know, I was showing something and I forgot to turn. So if you look at this is B and this is C. They're the same except these windows are in opposite directions. So that's what I was showing. I'm so sorry. It's hard to remember to change from one thing to the next. So I'm going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to line up the little red. There you go. Now the roof on this is, the roofs are probably the most complicated to make sure that you cover the space that you need covered. Oh, this shifted on me. Yep, look at that. So I'm going to just line that up again. And I'm just going to iron that back down. There we go. There, that's done. I'm just going to iron it this side. And now I'm going to do C3. So I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to trim it down. And again, I forgot to change. You guys are going to kill me. I keep forgetting, and I'm so sorry. Okay, so I have did some extra ironing because it shifted and came undone. And then I trimmed this down, and I'm going to take this piece and get ready for C3 to be sewn. So let's move over to the camera of the sewing machine. Here we are. And this foot that I'm using makes the lining up so much easier than if I didn't have that foot. So there we go. Now I'm going to get this. There we go. And now we're doing the, let me just move back to there. Getting a little better. All right, so now we're gonna just fold back because we're gonna do C4, and we gotta trim down C3 to give us our 1/4 inch to line up. And we're gonna grab this one and we're gonna just lay it on top, and we're gonna sew down the edge of the paper. And you don't want to sew in the paper because then you can't reuse these papers if you sew through them. All right. I'm just gonna get some threads. All right, so I just trimmed off some threads, and I'm just gonna trim off a few more. And now I'm gonna iron this down. We're almost finished this one, and after this one we'll have 2 more, one more building and then the roof. Okay, so now we're gonna fold back. We have to do C, so we're gonna fold back. We're gonna do C5, I should say. We're gonna fold back and trim this down, and then we're gonna put this here, and we're gonna go ahead back to the sewing machine to sew this piece on. There we are. I am so thrilled at how fast these can go. Okay, here we are. We're going to, now we have one more piece to do for this one. C6. So what do? We pull back on C6, and because we prepped these papers and folded both directions on the lines, it makes it super easy to fold them back when you need to fold each one back. All right, so here we are. We're doing the last piece of this. I'm going to make sure that it comes past where I need it to be. And we're going to go ahead and get this one sewn down and trimmed up. Now this is one building, and I'm doing it in real time to give you guys an idea of how fast one does. And don't forget, I'm playing with moving my camera and everything and talking. You guys would probably be able to do one of these a lot faster than I am. But it gives you an idea of real time, of how much time it takes to do one of these houses. All right, so now I can go ahead and get this trimmed up. Again, I am taking this 1/4 inch line here, and I'm placing it on this dark black line on the edge. This line that you see here, it's like a little tiny dotted line. That is the edge, and you can just cut there, but once you've cut, if you've walked out, for the next time you use these papers, you're not going to have that line showing. So it's really important to get used to using your ruler 1/4 inch on the black line and cutting, measuring from that black line out to add your 1/4 inch on. And if you get in the habit of doing that, instead of just cutting on the dotted line, you're going to have much better luck in reusing these papers and making sure that your 1/4 inch is a true 1/4 inch, right? So you haven't. So there we are. So unit C, let me pull this over here. So unit C goes there. See how the windows are opposite? They look like the same units, but they're opposite. So unit C is done. Now we're going to go and do unit D, which has one big window. This room here at the top of the building. That's a studio. With that big window there, that's a studio. All right, so now I'm just going to make sure that I've given myself plenty of room to get a 1/4 inch off of this line and a 1/4 inch off here. And I have plenty here and I have plenty there to do my 1/4 inches. So now I'm just going to iron this down. And I find this solid fabric that I'm using doesn't stick well. I don't know why. There might be a finish on it that's because they're not washed fabrics. So we just have to be real careful when we're working on this. Now, I'm doing D3 first instead of D2. It doesn't really matter in this case because they both have to go on before I can do the D4. Just make sure that you do these two before you do this one, because if you do this one, it's not going to work. It's not going to look right. It's not going to be the same. All right, so there we go. That looks good. And we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to continue getting this sewn down. There we go. Oh, I think it shifted off again. Yeah, it did. Only part of it. So I'm going to make sure that this gets ironed back down before I do anything. All right, so now I'm going to just trim off. Okay, so I'm going to just trim off the excess thread there like you saw me do, and I'm going to iron down one side, and then we're going to do the other side. And we're going to just trim this off. And we're going to just lay it out there. This is coming along nicely. And off to the sewing machine we go. Now, this technique is not mine. Multiple people have shown it. I just decided that if I'm going to rave about this technique for English paper piecing, I'm going to provide free patterns for you to download from my website. I'll put the link down below for them and for this one. This one, as I'm filming this, it is not technically available yet. All right, so I just trimmed off the excess threads. I've ironed it. Now we're doing D, and we're just going to pull that back, cut it with the add a 1/4 inch ruler, trim it off. That was tight there. And we're going to go ahead and get this sewn on. Now, when I'm laying this out, I'm making sure it goes past my cutting edges, because I really want to make sure that I have plenty of fabric, that I'm not cheating myself. There we go. And there we go. And here we are. This is really coming along nicely. We have one more unit to do, which is the roof. And the roof is not the easiest one to do because it's got triangles in it, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So this is ready to be trimmed down. And again, we're just going to measure off that solid line a 1/4 inch away and then trim that. Get in the habit of doing that measurement instead of just assuming that you can cut on the dotted line, because when you reuse these papers, that dotted line is not going to be there. So it's been cut off, right? So it's hard to tell. And every time you use these papers, the papers might get, that 1/4 inch might get smaller, and then you won't have your pieces fitting from one block to the next. There we go. So there is this one. So this is what it's going to look like without the roof. Isn't that great? That's looking really good. So I'm just going to move these off the side, and we are going to get the roof pieces. We have E1, 2, and 3. Now, these are the fabrics I've chosen for the roof, and that's the roof, and that's the sky. It could be a light blue, it could be whatever. It could be whatever you want. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this fabric on. Now, if you look, I'm covering this whole space with this fabric. And the reason why I do that is because I want to make sure that that whole triangle is covered. And I'm going to do some finagling here to make sure that it is completely covered also. So we're just going to go ahead and iron that down. There we go. Now I'm going to go over to E2, and I'm going to unstick this carefully. And I've folded these papers again ahead of time, so it makes it really easy. I'm going to go ahead and trim that. There we go. And now, because you have this folded back, and you're going to go put this in there, the best thing to do is just make sure, make sure that this fabric, when this piece here, you can see the lines of the pattern through the paper. You can tell that it's being, like the whole, this fabric is big enough to cover that whole piece, regardless if it is on point or whatever. I've just done a rectangle, and that was big enough to cover that whole space. So now I'm going to take that over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew those together. Making sure that I'm not sewing through the paper. Very important, because I want to use these papers over again if I can. There we go. And now I can lift this. Let me just switch. Sorry, I almost forgot. So now I can lift this. Let me get rid of this extra thread. And I'm just going to iron this down. Ooh. And see how that paper is way bigger than the space that you're covering. I purposely make these triangle pieces bigger than they need to be. I mean, I do it for all of them, but the triangle pieces substantially, because I want to make sure that that gets covered properly. I'd rather have a little too much waste than not have enough, and then you're wasting your time. All right, so we're going to pull back E3. We're almost finished, but this is our last one, and then we can start assembling. Now I'm going to go in, and I'm going to trim this whole thing off. Now again, we want to make sure, we don't want to put it there, because see, this part is not, this part has no fabric behind it. So we want to line this up. So we want to line this up. So this whole section that's part of the pattern, and I don't know if you can see that through, and I can't get up there to enlarge it. So I'm just going to lift that up. So see how the lines there, and you see the number E3? Well, the fabric, this fabric in the background, and this fabric is part of the other one. But this fabric in the background, it's completely covering, because it goes from here to here. So it's completely covering that section that we want to cover with the fabric that we're putting it on. So that is how you make sure that the piece that you are using that's on the diagonal or a triangle or like just a weird shape, you can really gauge it this way. Because if you sew through the paper, you can't really gauge how that is going to flip for you. Whereas if you do it this way, that is going to show that you have made sure that your piece will flip and cover this whole section that you want covered. There we go. So now I'm just going to iron this. There we go. So there it's ironed. Now we're going to trim this down. Where did I throw the ruler? Okay, we're going to trim this down like we did the other pieces. And we are going to, oh, thing's slipping on me. I don't want it to slip. Okay, so that one's done. Then we are going to take the papers off and carefully sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And sew each unit together. And it'll make such a great, there we go. And last one. There we go. So now this is what they look like, all put in the order A, B, C, D, and E. And if we flip them, there's E, D, C, B, and A. Okay. So now we're going to sew A to B, and then we're going to sew C to B, D to C, and then the last one E for the roof. And this is the magic. There. It's been taken off. Taken off. There you go. There, and the roof. And they're ready to sew together. So we're going to take this piece and sew those two pieces together. I'm going to do a little bit of chain sewing to speed this up a little bit. Now, I'm going to switch back to my 1/4 inch foot, my 1/4 inch seam allowance foot. And the reason is because I want to make sure that I have an exact 1/4 inch. I have no paper to follow now, and we're just patching these pieces together as if we're doing regular patchwork. The paper's gone. There's no more sewing through the paper. You can use that paper for another house. There we go. And actually, I'm just going to pick up C and D. And let me just quickly flip so you see what I'm doing. So I'm going to pick the, I did A and B. So this is C. And I'm going to put it to E. And I'm going to sew those together. There we go. All right, now I'm just going to take these off, give them an iron. I'm going to make sure that my threads are clipped off nice and neat. And we're just going to give this a quick iron. This is A and B that I'm ironing. Let me just move some things over out of the way. So this is A and B, and I think I'll do it that way. Hot. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing with there we go. And we're going to sew this one to this unit. I'm off the camera, sorry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these two together. Making sure that things are lined up. I have my 1/4 inch foot on now. There we go. And we are going to give this an iron. And then we have one more unit to sew together. And that's it. I'm really, really pleased with how fun these houses are. They can be so much fun. So now let me just get this back into position. And the last piece is this. Okay. This one shifted, and obviously I did not get it back, the paper back lined up as good as I would have liked it. And it's kind of, but you know what? This is what it is. As long as it is, as long as it's the right width and height, I don't care what happens on the inside. It doesn't matter. All right, so we're going to sew these together, and then we are done with this really fun paper piecing. Tall building number 4. And there we are. So let me show you. I'm going to iron this. I'm going to take off the excess threads because I really don't want the excess threads there. It makes a bit of a mess. And we are going to get this ironed, and then I can show you. And you know what? I'm going to iron this up towards I could re-iron this and do it the other way, but I haven't. And there you are. There is tall building number 4. So this is what we started with. And just to recap, we started with a paper. We printed it out on freezer paper on the doll side. Okay, don't forget, your copy will have a 1-inch square here. It has to measure. You have to take your ruler and double check that it actually is an inch. Okay, then we've taken all our papers and we've cut, I've just rough cut them apart, and then we take and we fold this way on the line and this way. And what I use is something with a very sharp edge, and I just go and line up and fold it back, and then I'll do the next one, fold it back, and then I'll do this one, and then I'll flip it to the other side, and I would do the same thing, folding it back and everything. Okay, just like that. Lining it up, folding it back. And this, when you're first folding, you're doing the first folds, this helps. This really does help to make sure that you get a crisp folded line there. You would do that on everything, on all your papers. And then after that, you would just start with the A, B, C, D, and E. So I don't know how the other ones are numbered. I think they're numbered the same way, but the A would be at the bottom, I believe, for all of them. And then the B, just make sure you put them in the alphabetical order to assemble them, and then you shouldn't have any problems. So that is it for this share and tutorial. And you will find, I will put links down below for this house and all the other ones. I'll put a link for everything. And I'll put a link for the original video and some of the other ones I'll try to get, because I've done it a couple of times where I've shown different things. I think I did a video explaining how I go about getting the pattern from regular paper onto my freezer papers and what I do for that. But we'll see you next time. And oh, and if you like these videos, please subscribe, ring the bell so you can be notified of when I upload my next video. Take care. Happy quilting. Bye-bye.